In today's video, I want to show you guys how to cut and sew a simple straight dress with a turtleneck that will have a V cutout. We are also going to learn how to fix an invisible zip and how to work with a fully beaded lace. So if that's what you're interested in, keep on watching. The materials you're going to be needing for this is the lace. You can see that this lace is fully beaded. There's no other design on it. I'm also going to be using a matching color of crepe, zip and thread. Then I also have the dress pattern here. I have the video on my channel already on how to draft a basic dress pattern. So it's that same pattern that I am using for this video. If you don't know how to draft a basic dress pattern, then please go ahead and watch that video first. The video is very detailed and I made sure to not skip anything. So I'm 100% confident that by the time you watch that video, if you really pay attention to it, you are going to fully understand how to draft a basic dress pattern. The only thing I'm going to change in this dress pattern is the neckline. I want this to be a turtleneck with a V cut out. So I'm going to cut out the V neck on the pattern, then I'll just attach the turtleneck. One thing you need to notice is that for a turtleneck, the neck cannot be too wide and it also can't be too low. So because of the way the turtleneck is going to sit at the front, I can still put a V-neck in front. But for the back, the neck has to remain a high neckline. So you can't go below 2 inches. You can use 4 by 2, you can use 3 by 2, you can use 3 by 1, which is the standard. But if you cut the neckline too low at the back, you will not be able to fix a turtleneck that will come out right, so please keep that in mind. To cut out the V-neck for the front, I will come up from the chest line by 0.75 inch, and this is going to be where the V-neck will stop. So the standard neck I cut out on this pattern is 3 by 3. I'm just going to come out a bit from that 3 by 3 so that the turtleneck won't be too tight around my neck. So what I'm using is between 3.75 and 4 inches for the width of the neck. So you can see that I even measured this out. I measured out 1 inch. So I'm using a total of 4 inches as the wideness. And I just connected the 2 points together. That's it for the front neckline. So the next thing I want to do is cut out the back neckline. You have to make sure that the shoulders for both the front and the back match. And for that reason, I'm going to place the pattern this way and mark where the front neckline stops on the back pattern. So this is what I'm going to use to cut out the back neckline. I decided to reduce the wideness of the front neck, so I came in by about 0.75 inch, which means that it's a total of 3.25 that I used as the neck width for the front. And I'm just going to retake that for the back pattern. So I made sure the shoulders match and mark where the front neckline stopped. And with this, I'm going to adjust the back neckline. I'm not going to be going down below 1 inch for the back neckline. I'm only going to expand the width of the neck by the 0.25 inch that I took off from the front neckline. So I was thinking of putting a keyhole at the back of the dress, which is why I was taking all of these measurements, but I ended up not doing it. Let me still explain it for you guys that are interested. So I came up from the chest line by 1 inch. Then I measured from the neckline to that mark and divided it into 2 to find the midpoint. After determining the midpoint, I went in by 1 inch and marked the point there. So I used the curved line to connect all of the 3 points together to form the keyhole at the back. After that, I'll go ahead and cut out the neckline for the front. I initially cut out the keyhole for the back, but then I changed my mind and I glued everything back together. Before I cut out the neckline, I decided to measure the roundness of the neck for both the front and the back, because this will help to get an accurate measurement when I want to cut out the turtleneck. The turtleneck will be cut out and attached like a collar, so you want to make sure that what you're cutting won't be too big or too small, because the neckline for the front is going to be completely cut off. So I went ahead to measure the roundness for the front. Then I measured the back neck roundness and multiplied the total by 2. This is because this pattern is on fold, it's just showing half of a scale, so you have to multiply it by 2 to get the complete neck roundness. So after doing that, I went ahead to cut out the neckline. So what I'm going to do after cutting out the neckline is to cut on my fabric and on the crepe material. The crepe material will serve as the lining for the lace, because the lace is a transparent lace. I'm going to add my seam allowance because there's no seam allowance added to this pattern. So I'll add seam allowance to the sides, to the center back, to the neckline, the shoulder, and the armhole. This is it right here. For the sides, I used 2-inch seam allowance, and the center back, I used 1.5-inch seam allowance. So after cutting on the crepe, I went ahead to also cut on the lace fabric. As you guys can see, I made sure that I did not cut the lace fabric on fold. I cut out each piece individually. And my reason for doing this is to make sure that the lace doesn't shift out of place. So I made sure to secure the crepe properly on the lace with all of my novels, as you can see, before cutting it out. After cutting all of the pieces out, I went ahead to secure it all round with pins, as you can see. So I made sure to face right side together. What I'm going to do now is cut off all of the beads along where I want to sew using this scissor thing. And you guys, I caught so much bead, like it literally filled an entire jar. As you can see, the fabric is made entirely out of bead. So this is going to be a very tedious process. It was very stressful to do, but I sure survived. So to turn the crepe with the lace, I'm going to stitch around the neckline. I'm going to stitch the neckline down and the sides as well as the hem of the dress. So by doing this, I'm going to turn the lace with the lining, and there will be no rough edges at the neck, the side, and the hem of the dress. I'm going to repeat the same thing for the back pattern. Stitch down the center back, the sides, and the hem of the dress. I'm gonna head to turn the lace with the crepe. I turned the sides, but I did not turn the neckline and the armhole. I also turned the bottom part. So you can see that the back is looking shorter than the front. That's because I have not yet taken in the shoulder dart, the bust dart. Once I take in the bust dart, it's going to align. So what I want to do next is to join the back piece together. So I'm just going to move this here first. I'm going to work on the front later. So I'm just going to join the back piece together, turn right sides to face each other. So mind you, I've gone ahead to trim off the beads along where I'm going to sew. So I'm going to go ahead and run a stitch on the middle from top to bottom. I'm still going to open it up when I want to fix the zip, but I'm just going to stitch down the middle first. Stitch down the center back. So after stitching the center back down, I'll go ahead and iron it out, then fix the zip. So I'm just making sure that it is equal before I pin it down. Mind you, I've not taken in the darts at all. Okay, this is good enough. So this is the center back. The reason why I did not hem the neckline is because I'm doing a turtleneck. After arranging the center back for the dress, I went ahead to pin everything down so that I can stitch down the center back using the zip allowance. The zip allowance I'm working with is 1 inch. Remember, it is 1.5 inch I used as a zip allowance, but I have already used half an inch to turn the crepe and the lace together to finish off the edge, so I'm left with 1 inch. Same thing for the sides. I'm left with 1.5 inch out of 2 inches after turning the crepe with the lining. I'm going to be leaving 8 to 10 inches at the hem of the dress as the slit for the back. Remember that this is a fitted dress and it is not with a stretchy material, so there has to be slit added to the back. So from here downwards is going to be the slit, while from here upwards will be the zip allowance, but I'm still going to stitch from the neckline down to where the slit will stop, then iron it out later before opening up the zip space. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is take in the dart for the front piece and the back piece. So taking in the dart for this is going to be a little bit tricky. First, because the material is a fully beaded lace, and secondly because it's 2 pieces of material that I'm going to be joining together to be able to take in the dart. So I'm going to show you guys how I'll be doing that. First thing you're going to need to do is trace out the dart on the main fabric. So you trace it from the pattern and transfer to the fabric. As you can see, I've traced out the dart for both the front and the back piece. So to be able to take in the dart in such a way that both the lace and the crepe will be stitched down when you want to sew the dart, what I'm going to do is use needle and thread to first of all hold the 2 fabrics together from top to bottom. This is why it is important to trace out the dart. So to hold the 2 fabrics together, I'm going to pass the needle through the first dart leg. This is a basting stitch, so I do not need to tighten anything. And from that dart leg, I move on to the other dart leg horizontally. After doing that, I'm going to move up vertically in this dart leg that I just transferred to. So after moving up this way, from that same point, I will cross over to the other dart leg. And I'm going to repeat this process from top to bottom. Make sure that you're watching what I'm doing so that you get it. So from here, I moved up again and crossed over to the other dart leg. You can see that I'm not tying up the stitch because I'm still going to drag this. And from this dart leg, I moved up, crossed over to the other dart leg. So this is basically what you are going to do to hold the 2 fabrics together and take in the dart before running an actual stitch on it. So I came up again, crossed over to the other dart leg, and I'm just going to keep doing this. As you guys can see, I am halfway done with this side, so I just want to show you guys what it looks like. So this is it here. You can see that the thread line is showing, so this is going to show me exactly where I need to trim off beads so that I won't trim off excess bead and that part of the dress will be looking somehow. So I'm going to carefully trim off the beads, making sure that I do not cut the thread in the process. So after trimming off all the beads where I'm going to be taking in the dart, to close the dart, all I have to do is drag the thread. After dragging the thread, the dart is going to close off, and all I have to do is stitch on that exact line to be able to take in the dart. So I'm going to use this technique to take in the dart for both the front of the dress and the back of the dress. For the side dart, the normal waist dart, this technique is going to work. Basically, any kind of dart, this will work for it and make everything easier for you. So I'm going to do the rest of the darts off camera. After taking in the dart for both the front and the back of the dress, this is what it is looking like. So what I'm going to do now is join the sides. You see that both the front and the back is going to align perfectly because the side darts have been taken out. As you can see, I've not fixed the zip yet, but I have ironed out the zip allowance. I'm going to be doing that later. So I'm just going to make sure that all of the sides match and the shoulder points also match. And before I stitch down, I obviously have to trim off the beads. Just know that throughout the entire sewing process, I use that scissor stain, I don't know what it's called, sorry, to trim off all of the beads along where I'm going to sew. Because if I don't do that, the needle is going to break, and I don't recommend using hammer to break off beads because it can damage the fabric, and I just feel like it's more stressful. So I prefer to just trim everything off one by one. So after arranging the front and the back of the dress, I'm going to use a pin to hold everything down. Once I'm done pinning the front and the back of the dress together, before I take in the seam allowance, I'm going to retake all of my body measurements just to make sure that the measurements is exactly what I want it to be. Because if you decide to just take out the seam allowance of 1 inch or 1.5 inch that was added, and then sometimes the dress will become too tight or it won't be fit enough. So this could be because of the type of material you're working with. It's probably stretched out or shrinked when ironing it. And it could also be because you made a mistake when taking the measurements. So it's best to cross-check everything before joining. As you guys can see, I've gone ahead to use chalk to mark out exactly where I'm going to join. And I've gone ahead to stitch this down off camera and also join the shoulder. The next thing that I want to do is fix the zip. So now I want to show you guys how to fix an invisible zip. The first thing I'm going to do is determine how much I have to loosen from the center back that will fit the zip. So I went ahead to mark that point and open up the center back. Remember to iron this out first so that the crease line from ironing the dress will help in fixing the zip. So you know that you're going to fix exactly on that crease line. The next thing I'm going to do is fix the invisible zip. So I'm going to show you guys exactly how to do this without a zipper foot. This is what an invisible zip looks like. This is the back. This might look like the front, but this is actually the back. You can tell from the head of the zip that this is the back. And then this is the front part. The front part, you can see that the zip teeth is not showing. So when I grab the head and open it up, this is what it looks like. So one thing that you're going to notice about an invisible zip is that this side is actually folded in like this. So it is on this folded part, this crease line. I hope you guys can see it properly. Let me try. So this crease line is where you're meant to stitch, but the thing is that it is closed up. It is under this zip teeth, so you have to raise it up to be able to get it. This won't be a problem to sew if you have an invisible zip foot or a zipper foot, but if you don't have that, I'm just going to show you guys what to do to be able to use your normal machine foot for this. So you're going to open it up, and what you want to do is to iron this out. So it is showing properly now that I've opened up the zip. So I'm going to iron this open, iron it open, so that the crease line won't be folded in. I'm going to just open it up like this, okay, and iron it out. So you can see here it's closed, now it is open, closed, open, closed, open. So I'm going to iron it out. So I'm just going to iron it up. Can you guys see the way I'm pushing out this zip? So I'm pushing out this zip up to like this. I'm just pressing it down with the iron. Okay, so can you guys see that it is opened up now? Now that it is opened up, it's going to be easier to sew. So I'm just going to keep on going. You can see the difference between the two sides already. This is the side that I have ironed, and this is the side I haven't ironed yet. So you can see the difference between the both of them. So I'm going to go ahead and continue ironing it down. Of course, if you have an invisible zip foot, then this won't be, you won't have to go through this stress. I actually have a zipper foot, but the person I fixed my machine, my sewing machine last, made it the zipper foot area very tight, and I was not able to loosen the foot to put in the zipper foot. So now I have to go through this stressful alternative. So for the other side, I am also opening up that crease so that it should be easy for me to sew the zip down, because if you don't sew directly on that crease line very close to the teeth, it will not look like an invisible zip by the time you are done sewing the dress or the skirt or whatever you're using it for. It's not going to be neat when you are done sewing. So you just have to find a way to work with it. Okay. So I'm just gonna keep on doing this. This is going to make the work slightly easier for me. And you can actually get a zipper foot. I bought mine for 700 naira, so it's not expensive to get. So if you can, just get a zipper foot and don't go through this stress. I actually saw this hack on TikTok, I think. So you can see that after ironing it, it's looking this way. Just leave it like that. You saw that when I ironed it back, what I did was not, it went back to the way it was. So just leave it as it is. Open it back and then go ahead and fix your zip, fixing very close to the teeth. And of course, you know that when you're fixing it, this side, this is the front, this is the back. Okay, this is the front, this is the back. Don't go and mix it up, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and fix this now. Okay, so this is the fabric I'm working with. When you're fixing a zip, you have to go ahead and iron that zip at place. So you can see that I have the crease line. I actually stitched down all of this place before. I have the crease line there. So this is going to be my guide. You just ignore all of the threads I'm saying. I'm just going to remove everything, lay it down. Yeah. So this is the crease line which I'm working with. You're just going to turn the back of the dress. This is a fully beaded dress, so I've already gone ahead to trim all the beads along where I was sewing. So I have my zip here. Make sure you're placing it the right way. When you're installing the zip, this is how you want it to be, which means that this side is for this side. Okay, so when you fix it, you have it facing the right place. So what I'm going to do, because this neck part I've not done it yet, I'm still going to fix a turtleneck there. I'm just going to come down and this starts from here, half of an inch, and then I'll start sewing. This is where the struggle will start now, because this thing is not going to be easy to do at all. Although it has been ironed, it's still going to be a struggle. Don't get it wrong, especially because of how tiny the zip is. So I'm just going to make sure that I'm placing the zip along the crease line and then sew very close to the teeth. Just be patient with this process because it's going to take a while. So I decided to speed this up because this took longer than expected. I knew it was going to be difficult, but it took me a very long time. So what I decided to do was to use paper. So I ended up putting paper underneath the dress to be able to fix the zip, and this made the zip to be more stable and easy for me to fix. So that's just a tip for you guys. Use paper to fix the zip. So after fixing the zip, I went ahead to peel off the paper. This is what the first side looks like after sewing the zip. So I'm going to do the other side and show you guys how seamless this looks. This is it already completed. You can see that it doesn't even look like there's a zip there. The only part I noticed that there's a mistake is at this lower part here, which I'm going to stitch again so that it's seamless like the rest of the zip. After fixing the zip, I decided to try on the dress and I was like in love with the way it looks. The fabric just makes this simple dress look so classy. The camera is not even showing the beauty to its full glory. So what I want to do now is cut the turtleneck. You can see I'm even dancing from excitement. Next thing I want to do is show you guys how to cut and sew the turtleneck. This part is also going to be very detailed because it's a lot, and I understand that not a lot of people know how to cut and sew a turtleneck, so I'm going to show you guys every single step. So guys, next thing to do is to cut out the turtleneck. Remember that in the beginning of this video I measured the neck roundness on the pattern, and what I got was 19.6, and that is excluding the zip allowance, which is now a total of 2 inches, 1 inch on both sides. So I'm not going to use that exact figure. Okay, let me not conclude. What I'm going to do before I decide on the figure I'll use, if I want to use the exact figure, I'll do 19.6 plus the zip allowance of 2 inches, which will give me 21.6. So I end up using a total of 21.6, but that figure should just be aside first because that's going to be like what I'm going to use to check if I'm correct, like if the figure I'm going to end up using is too big or too small. So this is how I joined the shoulder. I don't think I've showed you guys this part. So this is how I joined the shoulder. You know that I hemmed the v-neck part, so the ½ inch for this v-neck is out, but the one for the back is still there. So I made sure to leave a gap for the turtleneck, which I'm going to install, which will come this way. And you can see that for the zip part too, I also left space for the turtleneck to stay. Alright, so what I'm going to do is take the roundness of this place. So this is the back neck. I'm going to take the roundness, including the zip allowance. So I'm just going to continue from here and take the roundness, because you want to make sure that what you're doing is not too big or too small, because there's no base for the turtleneck to rest on in the front, because it is a v-neck. So what I have here is almost 10 inches. This is 9.8. What I'm going to do next is to take my front neck curve. I'm going to take my front neck curve. So from here, I'm just going to hold the tape rule from this part and then place it on the front neck curve and see what I have, making sure that it's not too tight, just enough to stay firm on my neck. What I have is 20, so I'm going to use 20. Now what I got from the curve is 19.6, which is even excluding zip allowance. But what I have now in total plus zip allowance is 20. So I'm just going to go ahead and retake the measurement to be sure that it is accurate. Okay, so I'm just going to use 20 and a half to be on the safer side and to avoid it being too tight, because I don't want something that's going to be too tight on my neck. Alright, so I'm going to use a total of 20 and a half plus zip allowance. It's not too far from the 19.6, it's not too much. I think I'm using like 24, but I'm using like 14. I know that something is wrong, so I'm good with what I have. To be able to cut out this turtleneck part, you're going to fold your fabric in a 90, like you want to cut a 90-degree flare this way, okay? And what I'm working with is 20 and a half, which means I need a total of 10.25. So you're going to check at what point can you get 10.25. It is around here, and I'm going to need half of an inch on both sides to turn the turtleneck. So 20 and a half plus 1 inch, 21 and a half. 21 and a half divided by 2 will give me 10.75. So I need a total of 10.75, which is around here. Okay, so before I take the measurement, I'm going to measure what I have as the distance. The distance is 13. So I'm going to go ahead and mark 13 all around. So after marking this, what you want to do is to mark out how wide you want the turtleneck to be. So I want mine to be 1.5 inches wide. I'm going to go ahead and mark from this line downwards 1.5, but I'm also going to need allowance for folding this edge, so I'm going to make it a total of 2 inches to save time. 2 inches all round. Another thing I'm going to do is to come up and mark half of an inch all round. That is going to be for turning the upper part, because you're going to cut this in 2 places. You know, because it's cut on bias, you can't cut and fold. So you're going to cut it in 2 places, stitch the up and stitch the down. So since I'm cutting directly on the fabric and not on pattern paper, I'll have to just add the seam allowance on the main fabric. So I'm gonna go ahead and connect all of this. Note that this width is including the ½ inch allowance required for folding in the this part, which will be joined to the neck of the dress. This will be the upper part. You can see it's smaller. That's what is going to make the turtleneck to not look like it doesn't fit right. So you can actually make this. There's another way to cut this that the turtleneck will relax even more. I'll probably show you guys after I'm done with this, probably. Hopefully I won't forget. So this will just make it relax a bit more. But there, there are some turtlenecks that when you see it is like completely flat and fitted to the neck, and obviously you cannot achieve that when you cut the fabric straight. Even with this method, you won't really be able to achieve that really well. Okay, all right, so this is it. I need a width of 1.5. I don't want something too big, So what I'm going to do is come to the top part and mark half of an inch. I can actually decide to just cut the half of an inch seam allowance as I'm cutting the fabric, but for tutorial purpose, and also it's going to be more accurate if I actually mark out the half of an inch. I'm just going to do the needful, do the right thing, and mark half of an inch all around. Okay, so I'll just connect it all together. So what I want to do now is to measure what I have to be sure it is equal to what I want. Remember that I want 21.5, which is 10.75. What I have here is way more than 10.75, but I can definitely still work with it. I'll just trim off the excess. I need 10.75, which is here. That's fine. When I'm done and I want to attach it, I'll trim off the excess. So just keep up with what I'm doing. What I'm going to do now is cut it out. Okay, so this is it, guys. You can see that this is looking smaller at the top, so this is going to help it relax properly. What I'm going to do is cut this in 2 places. I've iron stayed to one part of this thing already. You will still have to iron stay to do both of them, but since I already have one part, I'm just going to iron stay. I'm just going to cut out here. Let's go ahead and iron stay to the other piece. So I've gone ahead to iron stay to the other piece, and I have also cut this out on the lace fabric I am working with. So I only cut out the lace for one side. I did not cut lace for the other side because that's going to be the inner part of the neck, and I don't want the turtleneck to be uncomfortable, because if the lace is also there, the beads will make it very uncomfortable. So I cut this for one side. What I'm going to do is face right side together and stitch at the top using the half of an inch seam allowance that was added to it. I won't be stitching the sides yet, just the upper part. After stitching it, I will iron it out. After I'm done ironing it, the next thing that I'm going to do is fold in the seam allowance for the front. Remember, the front is the one that have the lace, while the back doesn't have the lace. So I'm going to fold in the half of an inch seam allowance and use hemming gum to hold it down so that it will not unravel. My reason for doing this is because that part is going to be top stitched later. When I finish attaching the turtleneck, you will understand this better, but for now, just know that the front part of the turtleneck, I'm going to fold it in with half of an inch seam allowance. So this is what it's looking like after ironing it out. So what I'm going to do now is fold this other side in and just iron it flat. This is what it is looking like after ironing. You can see that the seam allowance for the front is folded in, while the one for the back is still there. So what I'm going to do now is stitch this down to the neckline. So let's get right into that. I'm going to be starting from the back neckline and work my way to the front. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to fold this turtleneck that I want to attach into two this way, facing right sides together, and I'll stitch down on the half an inch allowance that was added to the side. Remember, I added half an inch seam allowance for both sides to be able to turn it. So I'm going to stitch this down, making sure that the seam allowance for the front is still folded in. So this is why I folded in the seam allowance for the front before stitching down the sides, so that I'll be able to fold it in when stitching down. So I'm also going to do the same thing for the other side. Open it up, face right sides together, and take in the half an inch seam allowance. After stitching the sides down, I decided to cut off this upper part here so that the fabric won't be too bulky after turning the right side out. So the next thing I want to do now is attach this to the neck of the dress. To do this, I'm going to start sewing from the back of the dress. So what you're going to do is grab the turtleneck that you have cut out and sewn, and you are going to face this back piece, the back side of the turtleneck, to face the wrong side of the dress. So basically, if we are facing wrong side to wrong side, and then you're going to stitch down on the half of an inch seam allowance, making sure that the two edges match, so that when you want to turn it, it will fit in properly. So as you can see, the wrong side of the turtleneck is facing the wrong side of the dress. So I'm going to stitch down on that half an inch seam allowance for the back. So this is where it's going to stop. Can you see? Yeah. So this is it. So if I want to close this up now, I'll just come over and top stitch. I'll top stitch it. But before I top stitch, I'm going to go ahead and do the other side. So this is how it's gonna come. You can see the beam. Use this. So after I've joined everything together, this is what it will be looking like. I'm just going to pin this side. After stitching both sides down, the next thing to do is to close this up. So what you're going to do is tuck in the seam allowance for the back and bring this front part to cover it up, and then you're going to top stitch on the front. So when you get to the edge here and you're done sewing the back neckline, you're going to take in a little bit from the front and also put this in between the turtleneck. This is to make sure that the neck is not too wide and it will give it a better fitting. So for this side that doesn't have anything to rest on, you just fold in the allowance there and then put the front one on top, making sure that a part of the front neckline is in between it, and then you stitch down. So I took in roughly 2.5 inch from the front neckline and tucked this into the turtleneck. After doing that, I just pushed it aside and continued sewing the rest of the turtleneck piece. So because the side doesn't have any neckline to rest on, I'm just folding in the seam allowance for the back by the 1/2 inch and then placing the front part of the turtleneck on top, making sure that the both sides align so that when I stitch it down, the thread will catch both of the fabric for both the front and the back. And then I'm going to just stitch this down. Just like I did for the first side, I also come over here and tuck in some parts from the front neckline into the turtleneck. Then I'll just stitch up everything, and that is all on how to attach a turtleneck to a dress with a V cutout. As you guys can see, this is looking very neat on the inside and on the outside as well. So I tried on the dress and I was loving the look, but I decided to shapen it down a bit and cut out a little bit from the armhole as well. So guys, for the sleeve, I left that slit blank for you to decide what you want. The sleeve I used for this dress is a cowl sleeve, and I have the tutorial on that on my channel. I also have tutorials on other kinds of sleeve that you can choose from, but I did not film the sleeve tutorial in this video. So that is it for this tutorial. You can see a little behind the scenes of the kind of sleeve I used here. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. I hope you guys found this video very helpful. If you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. This is a final look of the dress. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Don't forget to subscribe for more tutorials like this. Bye.